but there is magic within us. There is brilliance within us. It's just a matter of unlocking it, or really removing the blocks that we often put up in front of ourselves. That, we're the ones that are instilling that level of fear or uncertainty or doubt or hesitation or lack of confidence or whatever you might call it. But by engaging in gratitude and in those methods, it like dissolved that just enough to let the brilliance shine through. And I just acted on whatever ideas were coming to me that felt like ideas of abundance versus ideas of lack, and feeling like I was trying to fix something that was broken.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry Seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about
Yes.
your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hersh Rephun.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
Hitting the brand voice runway with me today is Andrew Kap. Andrew is a best-selling author whose current books include The Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. Great title. 3 Words I Use to Sell 100,000 Books, and Just Feel Good. And after talking to Andrew for just a few minutes, I can visualize him kind of writing books with these titles. I get that personality coming through right away. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Andrew.
Well, Hersh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about wherever we might take this conversation. And I have no doubt we're going to jump on some really fun points. So ready to dive on in and really happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, that's the nature of storytelling, is that we, no matter what story you tell, and I as someone who's written across a lot of different mediums, I like to know where it's going, the story, but at the same time, the journey is what makes it exciting, what makes it fun. And when you finally, get there, it should feel like a fulfillment of a dream. Your career and writing these books and using books as a means of expressing yourself and building your brand has been an interesting journey. What's your primary goal in doing the work you do and in building a personal brand?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because even within that question, I heard 2 questions, because there was like the primary goal in general and the primary goal within the context of branding, which I call you the branding expert, not me. I'm sure we'd agree that's a loaded term because a lot of people bring different meaning to it.
Sure.
But to answer that question to the best of my ability, my primary goal is giving value, and ideally through the books I do, their intended goal of these books and this content is taking topics that most people overcomplicate, or it feels cumbersome, or it feels just out of their depth, and simplifying it and making it user-friendly and making it easy to implement. The branding aspect out of that, or the offshoot of that, is really to be hopefully well-known, despite these really grandiose titles, with under-promising and over-delivering, with being known as a standard of quality and a standard of value. It really is a thing where, and it's ironic because you can see the biggest success, my breakout book here doesn't even have my name on it, but I would hope that when people hear my name as I continue to publish books and bring out content, they will associate it with, oh, Andrew, he's never gonna phone one in. Like whatever he's got going on, whether it's a book or an info product or hopefully even an interview, I feel confident going in and knowing that this is going to be a positive customer experience for myself.
Yeah, and the thing is, you look at and I love the displays of the books and the titles. And you're right, your name isn't, first and foremost, front and center, but you're definitely building this brand of, providing value. And from my point of view, also providing inspiration and providing a really good take on how you can get it done. Let's talk about the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read. How did you come to put this one together?
Well, wow. By the way, fun little branding challenge here. We always have like a 20-minute version of our story and hopefully a 30-second version of the story, right?
Right.
And the real long and short of it, or probably my best attempt at the short of it is, I found out about the law of attraction close to 20 years ago when I was first starting as an entrepreneur and starting as a business. And I was just like looking at, it was one modality of many where I was trying to find, the secret to happiness and success and all those things. And, it was one of many where, to be quite honest, it felt very inconsistent to me. It felt very hit and miss. This was actually before The Secret even came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I struggled with years trying to sort it out. And I hit this wall about 4 years into this process where I lost my business and my girlfriend of 3 years all within like the same week.
Oh,
and
wow.
It wasn't even like an in-person breakup. She broke up over text. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of like look in the mirror and say, like, Andrew, what do you, something's wrong here. There definitely needs to be a change. And I had this weird simultaneous epiphany and moment of indignation. And I said, you know what? Whenever I did this whole law of attraction thing, if we'll call it that, and I didn't stop, it was starting to work. So I told myself, I don't care what happens, when it happens, how it happens, why it happens. I'm going to go all in with this once and for all. And all in, not meaning all day, every day, because I understood enough about myself and human nature that was unsustainable, but really 5 or 10 minutes of a manifesting method, whether it was visualization or scripting or just gratitude. And Hersh, it was kind of like really a movie, because once I made that decision and once I really committed to that, everything changed. Within 2 weeks, I felt so much better than anyone with a broken heart had any business feeling. Within 3 months, I was in a brand new way, healthier relationship. Within 4 months, I was making more money than any point in my life prior to then. And within 6 months, everything was different. I was waking up happy and fulfilled. I was in the best shape of my life. And I had this, it wasn't a thing where I understood intellectually. I understood it experientially. Through my life experience, I actually had this insight and understanding. And it took me 11 years to finally then give myself permission to actually write this book. But the reason I call it the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read is because I think any law of attraction book worth its salt is going to, 1, explain the law of attraction in a clear, easy way. 2, give user-friendly, easy manifesting methods so that you can apply the content. But the thing that I feel I added that other people didn't was answering that question of, why do we learn about the law of attraction or any other thing, and we get really excited and we start to use it and we start to get results even, and then we stop anyway? If I could answer that question the way I answered for myself and articulate it so that anyone else that's holding up the mirror to them, then it really is the last law of attraction book they'll ever need to read, because they'll never have to worry about stopping in the middle of their progress anymore, because they'll always have that insight of human nature within themselves.
That's great. That's great. And maybe that's why the title resonates, so much and so quickly with me, is that, you can read, the last few years, probably 4 years, I've been reading a ton, reading business books, reading personal development books. I have a podcast called Truth Tastes Funny that's kind of about, personal development and just staying sane in a crazy world. So I've done a lot of this stuff, but there's always this sense of, well, if this were the answer, everyone would just read this one book. Everybody would read it. Like there'd be no exceptions. It would be the new Bible. It would be whatever, because if the answers are all in one book, and this kind of has fun with that idea, but at the same time says, yeah, if I can just get this across, then they'll have this thing kind of covered. They'll have it down. Now, in terms of how you changed your business or business model or started to make more money, what changed in that sense?
Do you mean after publishing the book?
Well, you said within 3 months of the breakup.
Okay.
4 months of the breakup.
So again, just for clarity, in case I wasn't clear, what I did from in terms of like an action standpoint in that time was really engaging in all the methods that I'd read about in other books or that I'd learned about in videos or went to seminars or whatever it might be. Although I tweaked them because I said, okay, here's a version of this method that was kind of fun to do, but let me make it like even more enjoyable for me because I understood the key was consistency.
Mhm.
The only reason that this works, that it was working, is because, a level of enthusiasm and confidence will lead to that consistency. The consistency will lead to the momentum, and then the momentum will lead to results. In terms of what I did from a business standpoint, because I said I was making more money than at any point in my life, it was weird, and this is where the misnomer of law of attraction comes in. It wasn't just me like sitting on a couch and like thinking about it and then it magically
willing
appearing.
it to happen.
Well, so I believe that does happen, but it not alone. You have to take action, but inspired action. So it's like when you are sitting on that couch and you are meditating, ideas will spring to mind and they'll come up, whether it's from the universe or your subconscious mind or whatever your belief system might be. I honestly don't even care. All I care about is that it works. So during that time, through doing these methods, ideas and inspired, thoughts to action would come. Whether it was like, okay, I'm going to tweak the way I am showing up for myself when I'm with a client. I'm actually going to pursue this 9-to-5 situation. I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to do that thing in terms of getting over my girlfriend. Not only am I going to sign up for that dating website, because this is like pre-dating apps, this one is actually dating websites, but I'm inspired to write a brand new profile reflective of a new level of enthusiasm. So it's like these ideas are coming to mind and things are unlocking within me. And I am working in concert with that, in cooperation with that. And it kind of feels like magic because in the way it sounds a little dramatic, but there is magic within us. There is brilliance within us. It's just a matter of unlocking it or really removing the blocks that we often put up in front of ourselves. That, we're the ones that are instilling that level of fear or uncertainty or doubt or hesitation or lack of confidence or whatever you might call it. But by engaging in gratitude and in those methods, it like dissolved that just enough to let the brilliance shine through. And I just acted on whatever ideas were coming to me that felt like ideas of abundance versus ideas of lack and feeling like I was trying to fix something that was broken.
I love the way you describe that because the fact is that this is attitudinal change. It isn't, okay, I'm going to, squeeze real hard and wish for X. It's okay, I've been looking at things a certain way, and the way that I'm looking at them, the things that I want aren't coming to me is what's happening. So, when you think about gratitude, you mentioned gratitude in there and fear. Well, the fear is supposed to, in a way, it's supposed to protect us from getting hurt or failing or feeling pain or sadness or whatever. But without taking those chances, we can't get those things that we want to attract. So fear stands in the way of the attraction power. Gratitude is a great magnet also for good stuff. And yet, sometimes all we think about is what we don't have in a given moment. So saying, man, I wish I had this is not the law of attraction. The law of attraction is being attractive, I think, in some ways to the thing that you want. And I'm by no means an expert in it at all. I look forward to reading your book in its entirety because I don't, I want to find out more about it. But so just touch on for a minute, just feel good.
Mm-hmm. So here again, there's like, you're right. There is a story behind everything. The funny thing, and this is where we'll get to just feel good. The last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read, I really am grateful for a lot of the amazing feedback I've gotten from it. But a weird thing happened last year where a friend of mine texted me a photo of someone holding up their device with Law of Attraction, like my Law of Attraction book on it. Right. And she told me the story how she met this woman at a sales conference. The woman said, "Oh, I'm reading this cool book. Like, oh my God, I know that guy." And they start talking and she says, "Yeah, I love this book. but she was hesitant to show her the book because it had the term law of attraction. Because law of attraction, it's a very stigmatized type of category, right?
Yeah.
And so even though a lot of people will recommend that book, it became clear to me that there was also a lot of people that really enjoyed the book that they wouldn't recommend it because they're just going to feel self-conscious, like the person they're recommending to is going to judge them. So I said, you
Right.
know what? I'm going to make a law of attraction book. I'm going to explain all of this in hopefully a very clear, easy to implement, user-friendly detail without ever using the words law of attraction or manifestation or anything like that. In fact, the only time law of attraction, that term, comes up in the book is when I tell people, just so you know, I'm the author of this book called The Last Law of Attraction Book You'll Ever Need to Read. So what I did was I challenged myself to do a law of attraction book, not only without that explanation so that people wouldn't feel subconscious or self-conscious rather sharing it, but I also made it very thin. It's less than 100 pages. So the inspiration or the idea about this, it's giftable. It's a stocking stuffer, because you get somebody a book that's 400 pages. If they're not a reader, you're handing them a burden. But you get something that it's like a small little pocket-sized thing. It isn't a burden. It's more giftable. So this was my way of saying, let me reach more people that may otherwise have been resistant to the term law of attraction, and hopefully still provide them with value based on my own experience.
I'm making a couple of notes. I don't know why. I'm a compulsive note taker. I just think that's what it is. When I was in school, I don't think I liked taking notes. I think I liked writing stories while the teacher was talking. And so it looked like I was taking notes, but I really, in many cases, was just writing my own stories and using their voice as a soundtrack. I love it. But as I got older, I started taking notes, but I just have now created a habit where no matter what show I'm doing of my shows, I'm just taking notes. And so I was writing down some of the things about your brand that stand out, to me. But as you were talking, it's just this, nothing's an accident. Like a title is not, neither title is an accident, right? Of either book. Right. They both say something about you. And but the Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read is laid out for those who are watching on video. You can see the cover is laid out very, very well, because that's a long title and you need to use a certain layout. So it's practical. It's put out in the most practical way that you can possibly put it out, and Just Feel Good has exactly that vibe. Like you say, it's giftable. It's so the combination of those things is very streamlined and very sensible. And I think that's one side of what people get with you is my impression, is that there's a sensible thing. And I mention this for a reason, because you also have a side of your business that has to do with the course, right? The program, the 90-day Law of Attraction program. And then the 30-day thing that you only do once a year. You only make that available once a year. Can Correct. You expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, so just for clarity, the 90-day program is called Gravity of the Cosmos, as in, of the law of attraction, how we magnetically, almost through gravity, pull and we want what we want through the universe.
Right.
And really, it's one of those things I tell people, it's not a requirement. The whole point of it is, after you're done reading the Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read, and hopefully now you have these really awesome methods, if you can go now and do these methods for just 5 minutes a day, every day on your own, awesome. That's why I wrote the book. But if you're still fighting a little extra friction and you're trying to kind of break through, the whole design of the 90-day program is I'm going to send you an email that links to a new video lesson where I'm either going to guide you or like walk you through an actual method, with the intention that you get 3 consecutive months, 90 consecutive days of doing exactly what I advise people to do, where it's just a few minutes of using a manifesting method. Now, that's kind of like the premier thing. The 30-day course, which I call Escape Velocity, again, that's more gratitude based, with the understanding that of an interesting statistic I learned was that when a rocket ship goes out towards the moon and into, past Earth, 90% of the fuel is just getting past the Earth's atmosphere. But the moon is over 200,000 miles away. So meaning there's only 10% of the rocket fuel required to get 200,000 miles one way and 200,000 miles the other way. And it was at 90% just to bust through the gravity. So this whole escape velocity is a thing of like, okay, for 30 days, let's go through gratitude so that negative momentum and that lack of action that you have going, we're going to break through that. We're going to achieve escape velocity, and then you're going to be on your way. The reason I only offer it in December is because I think it's like the 90-day course is always there all year. And I feel like this 30-day thing is really in line when people are that vibe of the holidays and New Year's, where they'll be able just to take the most advantage of it. And I find that when I kind of hold it there and I reserve it, that adds even more of a level of momentum. Like, and I mean this, like you can price things a certain way, and you could make things a certain kind of availability that you really are understanding someone's psychology, where you don't want to cheat them by no means, but you do want to get them highly invested. I think there's such a thing as pricing something or making availability that people are going to be invested enough that if they actually buy something, they're going to follow through and use it. Because to me, the worst thing that could happen is someone spends their hard-earned money on something that I provide, and they don't use it. They don't actually get the value of it. So I want to do my part, whether it's making only available a certain part of the year I know it's going to work or whatever it might be, that when they do pick that thing up, they're excited. They're diving in. They're actually doing it, because in my experience, hopefully every time I've come up something, as long as someone's actually used it, they've gotten the results or some kind of result that they were looking for.
1,000,000%. I mean, the buy-in on their part, if everything were free, if everything's given out to them for free 24 hours a day, it's not going to be as much benefit to them as if there's a price and a scarcity. It's just human nature. It's, it is what it is. And that's great,
And thank you, by the way, for bringing up the word scarcity. I don't even know why my brain didn't think to say that word, because I've, and we haven't covered this, I have a background in marketing and copywriting. I understand that term scarcity, and it's so funny. And I say this because I think, hopefully to give your audience value, sometimes you will learn so many things and do so many things that you will do certain things on autopilot without even having the words to it, even if you've already known the words yourself. By having it once a year, I'm not trying to manipulate, but I am, whether on purpose or inadvertently, I am employing scarcity. But I kind of find it funny that you said that word. I didn't even realize I was utilizing that really important foundational psychological concept.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, when like you and I both, when you're in the business of putting words together, we're often thinking about it as far as what we're doing for others or what we're doing to serve a certain cause. But stuff happens instinctively that are good ideas too, that have names and practices and labels. But that's immediately what came to mind was, he's of course he's employing, a scarcity strategy because he knows that, that works. But that's where our minds, where everything we absorb from everything we read and everything we've been conditioned, both good and bad, becomes such an integral part of the fabric of our person that, we can operate on a lot of things automatically. We train ourselves to do a lot of things automatically.
And it sounds like such a cliche. And it's, by the way, it's one thing in years past that I really hated to hear myself. But for anyone listening, those failures that you might be going through in your business, there really is value. You are really gaining experience points that are working in the background, even the stuff that you don't realize consciously. Everything that you do that doesn't work out is a building block that you end up utilizing later on. That's fueling even more success to the thing that does work out.
Yeah. And on top of that, it's not a bad habit to recognize that these mistakes that we have to own these mistakes.
Yes.
I hear the philosophy a lot, make sure that the consumer knows that it's not their fault that something isn't working as a sales strategy. And I get it, that they shouldn't beat themselves up about what's not working. But I do think that, recognizing that this is like, we could say, oh, well, the market was this and that was that, and the publisher didn't do this, and that guy was that, and then this happened, and this came out, and then this, and it's, oh, then they were being like this. We could do that all day long. The problem is it's a missed opportunity, because what do we learn? That the world is full of a bunch of a-holes who screw everything up for us. That doesn't help us the next time around, right? So, before we circle back around to final thoughts, and I'll give you the floor in a minute for that. And I have a kind of a special question that I ask every guest. But one thing that I am interested in knowing is, what is the next level for you, or the next challenge that you feel you need to really kind of kick in the butt?
It's an interesting challenge that I'm about to articulate, and it's hard to put it in a way that doesn't seem like bragging. So, but I'm right now currently, and again, I'm crediting everyone that's supported my books. Right now, I'm fortunate enough that I'm enjoying a certain level of momentum, that there's no urgency. There is an urgency to do that next book, or do that next project, or do that thing for that next paycheck. There isn't a level of urgency. So for me, it's not really an entrepreneurial challenge in the sense that I'm breaking the rules. Because I know I already have in my mind 50 ideas of things I can do. I really do. My challenge right now is a continual thing of looking more into myself and waiting for inspiration to hit that's pointing me in the right direction. Because there are things that I don't do that I already know that I can do. Like the way I interact on Instagram, for example, right now, someone pointed out to me like, hey, Andrew, all you're doing is posting reviews, but you could be doing so much more. I'm like, not only do I know I can do so much more, I know how I can do so much more. But since I don't feel inspired within to do it, I don't want to put out absolute garbage. So instead, I'm going of this artistic direction of just posting reviews so that people can see, like it's like a space filler. So my challenge right now is letting the inspiration guide me in the right direction. And again, like there's 4 things off the top of my head. Like I know what the next book is going to be. In fact, I've already made the covers. Like I made the audiobook cover, and I made the Kindle cover. And I knew about, by the way, Just Feel Good, even though the direction it took was off the inspiration of that story, that title and the idea for doing a book in some kind of direction, that was there like probably, I think, a year and a half before I finally pulled the trigger on it. 3 words I used to sell 100,000 books. I wasn't even planning to do that, but because people kept noticing that I was getting closer and closer to like 100,000 copies sold of my Law of Attraction book, they kept getting on the phone with me and can we do a virtual coffee or virtual lunch? And I didn't have time, but I don't want to say no to my friends. So I'm like, I'm going to write a book. And next time someone asks, I'm like, listen, this thing is $4 on Kindle. It'll tell you everything I can tell you in 2 hours. So for me, it's all about like my big challenge. It really is about continuing to trust myself, follow my inspiration, follow my gut. And I'm not judging anyone that does, because I've been there and maybe I'll be there again, but not chase the dollar, not chase that as my bottom line, because I don't want that to interfere with whatever's going on inside me that's pointing me hopefully in a better direction for my, like not only for others, but really for myself and for my life and for my business and my career, so to speak.
I totally understand that. Speaking of your Instagram, and that's true too. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. It doesn't mean, and just because it works for someone else doesn't mean that it's gonna work for us. I had a guest on recently named Yasser Hashmi, is like the youngest venture capitalist in the world, but his mind works a mile a minute, and it's fascinating to talk to him. And he said, in my book, I'm dropping data points from my life. You can't apply them to your life and assume that it's going to go exactly the same way. He said, so all I can do is share the data points. And if we all share from our lives, we can all kind of pool the information together, but it's going to be received differently by everyone. I thought that was really a great insight. So with regard to your social media, so how do you, while you're at this point, you're not writing the next book yet, or you're weighing what to do, how to do it, how do you stay in touch with your audience?
So, I mean, I have Instagram there. And by the way, I have YouTube, although I haven't been inspired to publish a video in a couple months.
I know
But
I noticed because I was looking at some of your videos and I'm like, that's why he wants to, because you mentioned I want to focus on YouTube a little bit.
yeah, it's like I always want to focus on YouTube more.
Yeah.
But again, it's one that's like I never want to phone it in. I never want to grit my teeth through a video.
Right.
So like and like I did one. If you go on that, you'll see it. I did 100 consecutive days of videos at one point. I did like and I didn't tell people I was doing it until I was on day 90. But I had a plan from the very beginning. I was going to do 100 consecutive days of original content, and wow, got me close to burnout, but it was a lot of fun. Speaking of which, and I don't know if this is what you meant by your question, but like, how am I doing it? For me, it's all about having fun, because when I have fun, the insights come and I interact better. Like I'll tell you this, I still work hard. Like if somebody emails me a question, I don't go, oh, I'm too busy, I'm too good. Like, no, I will reply to the best of my ability. I email a lot because a lot of people email me all sorts of fun, interesting questions. But right now, my approach, since I'm not inspired to do the YouTube, is on my Instagram. I'll either post funny memes that come to mind, or I'll post reviews that people have left for any of the books. And a funny little story about the memes, like way back when I first started that first business, before it evolved to the thing that I lost. I told you that story before.
Yeah.
I was inspiring cartoonist. I wanted to be like the next, well, not like Garfield. I mean, at some point it was Garfield. Like I had my own like characters and they were supposed to have their own cartoon show and movie. Like that was my vision. When that comic strip wasn't working out, I switched to one panel, like, one panel comics, kind of like the Far Side.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of my brain, even though I'm glad I never ended up doing that, it's still working. So these memes now, we've evolved to memes. It's my opportunity to do my own one panel comic strips that are either making fun of something or making a fun little perspective on like my book or whatever, my book titles or whatever it might be. So the whole thing about the Instagram is my opportunity to share those memes and hopefully give people a chuckle.
And I think there's often two sides to our engagement. There's the part which I think like Instagram is great for, where we say this, we're going to share another piece of us, we're going to share something, and we can't really worry too much about how many people see it or how many, it isn't a sales tool. It's just a brand kind of extension.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would call it. And then there's the other side where we say, okay, I want to put out a special I have done a special edition of this book. I want to let people know about it. How do you do what does that part for you?
Oh, which part exactly?
The part where you really want to activate the audience to do something. You want to get them to do something. Let's say you have a new book, or you have a new edition, or you just want to push, you're like, okay, sales are a little bit, whatever.
Yeah. So here's my approach. And by the way, I always tell people this is a way, not the way.
Right.
For me, it's all, and this, by the way, this is why I answer those emails. And this is why I work so hard to make titles that are really bold promises and actually deliver. And this is why I want that thing we're talking about in terms of branding, of being associated with quality, under promising, over delivering. What I'm doing is I am being selfishly selfless, meaning I'm giving all this value to people. They get the benefit, knowing consciously that I am building equity with my audience, so that when a new book does come out, all I have to do is email my list and announce on social media and tell people. And so far, I mean, again, we're young into this. I've only done 2 books since the last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. But so far, every time I've done that, the book becomes an Amazon bestseller in pre-orders. So that momentum that I had to generate on the first book carries over, because I end up serving my reader and my customer and my audience to the best of my ability in a very consistent way. They're not just buying that new book. They are continuing to engage with me on whatever level I've been engaging, where I'm still giving them value, whether it's answering an email, whether it's giving them a new perspective they've never seen, a simple meme that makes them laugh, a simple review that maybe they already have the book, but it reminds them, hey, let me read the book again and let me dive back into some benefits from it. Because like me, again, my way, Hersh, it's almost like a shock and awe. When it's time for me to pull in money, because I'm so consistently building up this equity and being consistent for people, I just announce everywhere and let it run its course and it do its thing. And then, of course, hopefully deliver on whatever that thing I'm selling, because I'm a stickler for this. I'm sure many people are. If I'm going to ask for your money, if I'm going to take your money, I want to at least 10x to maybe even 100x, to be dramatic, maybe even 1000x give you a return on that investment.
Yeah, that's bold. I mean, I think it's bold and humble at the same time. You know, it's got scope, but it's also saying, well, it's on me. It's not on you.
Yeah.
You know, so, I'm not selling tickets to the Andrew Kap Festival. I'm telling you guys that if I'm going to announce something, it's going to mean something.
Yeah. And just to quickly tell you, like, my idea for the YouTube channel, it's called Andrew Kap because, like, let me grab that name because I've lost it. And I don't have Andrew Kap and other social media handles because other people took them. But the star of my YouTube show, my YouTube channel, it's really twofold. Well, one, it's the books. I'm not the star of the books or the star, but more importantly, I mean this. This isn't just paying lip service. The viewer is the star. Anyone that watches those videos, it's not about me. It's about them. It's not about how the law of attraction has affected my life. It's how the law of attraction can benefit their life based on what I've learned in my life. It's always like they are the star. It's always about them. So again, like, humble speaking, selfishly selfless, like I know what I'm doing, and my like Andrew Kap doesn't have to be the star. And I think many times it's almost better if Andrew Kap is not, at least in the context of these books, Andrew Kap is not the star. The books have to be the star. The readers have to be the star, because that's where the value is really focused.
All right.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and
it worked for you,
yes, that.
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.